today, of course, that broke this morning. Jules, Kai Havertz out for the rest of the season?
Yeah, it's not officially Arsenal. I haven't said anything, but certainly from the sources that we have, and it's pretty much not just us at ESPN, but a lot of other media as well reporting the Kai Havertz injury during the winter sun training camp in Dubai. And yeah, should be out for the rest of the season. I mean, wow. Saka is out. Odegaard was out for a while. Martinelli is out. They don't even have any more forwards left. They will be left with Trossard, Nwaneri and Sterling for the game at Leicester on Saturday.
Ooh. Hamstring end of the season, potentially.
Yeah.
It's about, I mean, most of us have hamstrings.
Now, obviously, Kai Havertz has been a polarising figure on this show over the last few months. But the problem is the January transfer window is now closed and you've got nothing. You've got no support now.
Yeah, I mean, he's not obviously a prolific goal scorer, but he's a player that Arteta's relied on. He's a player that now and again has done some good things. He's an extra body. He has chipped in with a few goals, obviously got 15 goals. I'd like to break
Is this it? Is this it, Craig?
Well,
is this the end of Arsenal's title chances?
No, I don't think it's the end. I don't. But it's made it incredibly more difficult from a squad perspective. Because guys that might have been filling in for a Bukayo Saka who's injured, or a Martinelli who's injured, or a Martin Odegaard who's injured, guys like Trossard and others that might have been filling in here, there's other people that are going to have to be shovelled around. I know young Nwaneri's come in and done particularly well, so that's an extra body. But now you're having to shovel somebody else into that role. So the pieces of the jigsaw keep moving. There's no sort of fresh pieces coming in. The pieces are just moving around. And that's going to make chasing Liverpool down even more difficult. I think they have to be ruining now the fact, not January, that they did not go out in the summer for whatever reason and bolster that front line. That is now coming back thus far to bite them in the backside.
What's the plan then for Arsenal, Jules?
There's just the one plan is to do with the players that they have available. This is it. It's quite unfortunate if you think about it that in a season like that where they've been good, they are qualified for the last 16 of the Champions League straight away. They are the second best team in the country here in England, and yet they were without their captain for 2.5 months, without their best player Saka for probably 4 months. He will come back at some point in March, we think. And then if Arsenal officially confirm then the Kai Havertz injury and that is out for a long time, potentially one of their best players and certainly one of a very important players, whether we like him or not, whether we think he's a good finisher or not, the way he presses and the work rate that he gives to this team is huge. So without Kai Havertz, it's bad as well. But again, yeah, maybe you could have signed somebody in January, maybe in the summer, but also you could not have planned for those key players being out for so long in the same season.
It's not the worst run of games coming up for them that we just saw.
Well, it could be worse, but at the same time, when you're turning around and looking at your squad and you're sitting in your coach's room talking and you're going, who's scoring for us
right
today? You know, that completely changes everything. And it's not, you know, Sterling's a complete and utter bust, and you can't rely on him to be playing game in, game out, which he's going to have to. Nwaneri's a young kid who's great in busts, but doesn't have the experience. So now you're relying on Trossard to play every game as well and be the main man. I mean, it doesn't matter who you're playing against. But other than Leicester and Southampton, regardless of who you're playing, you're going to get a game, and you need to score some goals.
Manchester United was on that graphic as well.
Well, yeah, sorry. Right.
I don't think they're dead.
All right, I'll give you that one, United.
I don't think they're dead yet.
They're not dead, but
it's going to put a huge onus on these guys. And I think it's going to put a huge onus on goals from defenders, albeit set pieces we've talked about a lot, but goals from the middle of the park.
Yeah.
You know, Declan Rice, Martin Odegaard, Mikel Merino when he plays. If you haven't got it in the front line, you need to be chipping in from other positions. That's why it was so important over the years for the Liverpools to have the Gerrards, for Chelsea to have the Frank Lampards. You know, guys that would, when your striker, which wasn't often for the case of, you know, Chelsea and Didier Drogba, but when guys were having a harder time or were injured, they were getting goals from the middle of the park, and that either kept them in the hunt or got them over the line. And that's probably the only way Arsenal are going to chase Liverpool down.
I agree it's not dead, but if you look at it rationally, we're saying that We've been saying that Arsenal are in second place and not first because they don't have a proper centre forward. But the guy who we've criticised is now out for the rest of the season. My goodness, what kind of position?
It was interesting, Jules, as well. I was looking at the fixtures. Thinking, when do they play Liverpool? Maybe that could be a turn. But they don't play them until I think it's the third final game of the season for Arsenal. And in theory, it could be all done and dusted by then.
Yeah, it could. I mean, by then Saka will be back. And again, I think right now when you look at the picture, or the bigger picture even from an Arsenal point of view, the hope is that Bukayo Saka comes back as quickly as possible, fit, and then firing as quickly as possible too, and then try to carry this team and be decisive again. But we don't know in what kind of fitness he will be when he comes back. We don't know exactly when he will come back either, to be fair. So there will be the Champions League too that comes in. At least there's no FA Cup anymore. There's no League Cup either, the final to play. But the Champions League will use a lot of the energy as well from the players that are still there, fit and available. And that will be difficult to manage as well. So we'll have to see. I agree with Craig completely. That's the other point I would have made. Some of the goals missing right now are the goals from Martin Odegaard. He was 15 2 years ago. I think he was 10 last season. He's only on 1 or 2 yet so far this season. And he had the injury, but he will have to step up. Others will have to try to carry the responsibility. But suddenly that Saturday game away at Leicester, which before would have looked, okay, this is a normal game for top teams in England, but now looks massive because if you do well, if your forward line of, we expect Trossard, Nwaneri and Sterling do well, suddenly the confidence, the boost going into the other fixtures coming up probably would be easier. If you don't win or if your forward line doesn't do well on Saturday, then that will add even more pressure.
As soon as he said Saka, and when he comes back and he's going to do this and that, my mind went straight to Mo Salah last season.
Right.
When he was out for a lengthy period, the same as Saka is this year, and when he came back, he was horrible.